Africans have now been in the United States for more than 400 years. If after all of this time, your best assessments are that our plight is connected to a Bible written by the most ungodliest people we've ever encountered, and that was brutally beaten into submission within the minds of our enslaved ancestors, and if you also believe that our condition is connected to a silly slave syndrome myth, which presents what would in fact be the least plausible and least effective means for controlling generations of millions of people. If these are your beliefs, you should be ashamed of yourself after 400 years, because you've allowed the white oppressive forces to dumb down your mind and subdue your critical thinking skills. We must stop believing in things that insults our own intelligence. Black people, it's time to wake up and see our reality. The white media's unrelenting negative depictions of Black people is much more than just biased media reporting. The goal is to inundate Black people with so much negative disinformation about ourselves that we become so demoralized that we give up on the idea of liberating ourselves. It also creates Black self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds us as a people, and we can then be ruled over forever. This is the truth of our plight. This isn't some feeble-minded conspiracy theory. It's a process that is overt and in the open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do is start critically thinking. It's so obvious that it's only by not critically thinking that it cannot be seen. When critically thinking, can't you see just how cartoonishly unrealistic it actually is that virtually all information that we receive about ourselves from white sources are consistently negative and Black racially demoralizing? The white media's unrelenting negative depiction of Black people that amplifies the negative to such a point where it distorts our reality is actually a Black racially demoralizing divide and rule psychological warfare campaign. Demoralized divide and rule is a method of maintaining control over a targeted population through constant and unrelenting demoralization in order to create self-hate and division between them. Again, this is not some feeble-minded premise. It's the truth that they hide from us. It's a well-proven tactic that's been used for controlling targeted populations throughout history. It's also well documented. Yuri Benzovov, a former KGB expert in psychological warfare who defected to the United States during the 1970s, said that whenever those in power want to brainwash a targeted population to think and behave in the ways that they want them to, they always heavily demoralize them. This divides them, makes them self-loathing, and it makes them much more easier to control. Dr. Chus Milo, a psychoanalyst, says that demoralization of target audience is the next step in successful mind control. Joseph Goebbels, Adolf Hitler's chief propagandist, said that demoralize the enemy from within. This is the warfare of the future. Throughout history, oppressors have often deployed demoralizing divide and rule against the oppressed, because this creates self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds the people, and they can then be ruled over forever. This nefarious practice was never abandoned. It's the warfare tactic that white oppressive forces presently deploys against Black people. This is our hidden reality. The white society exclusively writes all Black people's narrative. The white society, therefore, literally owns Black people's interpretation of ourselves. They've transformed this unfair scenario into their greatest weapon used for controlling Black people by perpetually inundating us with negative disinformation about ourselves, to keep us demoralized, divided, and self-loathing. This condition makes it easier to control us and prevents us from unifying against them. This system is deployed like a massive media marketing campaign that constantly subjects Black people to receiving only the fraudulent worst narratives about ourselves. Within this system, fraudulent, black, racially demoralizing propaganda is being pumped unrelentingly into the unsuspecting minds of black people without being challenged or counterbalanced by any equal amount of black positive, racially affirming information. It conveys a subliminal message that black people are our own worst enemies and that we therefore need white people to govern over our lives. Moreover, it conveys that black people should admire, respect, and trust only whites. This system is extremely effective because when black people are repetitively presented these noted narratives from trusted white media sources, it can be very difficult to resist its implied propaganda programming, especially when the propaganda is being told daily and so unrelentingly. The basis of this concept of warfare works by affecting the subconscious mind of black people through unrelenting demoralization. It works by tapping into the immense power that shame has upon the human mind to mentally enslave black people. Its weapon is the demoralizing message that it carries and the way that it adversely affects black people in terms of our behaviors. No group can be constantly inundated with negative information about themselves and not be adversely effective. None. It's not possible. With time, being unable to refute the constant negative information about themselves, many black people eventually comes to accept them. The constant taunting of negative propaganda unconsciously affects how black people perceive ourselves, creating division and self-hatred among us. It also shifts black people's collective aggressions away from the white society and redirects it towards ourselves. It's precisely as Malcolm X warned us when he said, if you're not careful, the media will have you hating the people that are being oppressed and loving the people that are doing the oppressing. This is exactly what's been done to us through media manipulation. This is all possible because people are like computers. All you have to do is keep giving them certain information every so often, and you can steer an entire generation toward an applied objective. It doesn't matter if the information presented is untrue. Most black people will act upon the information because they've all been given the same disinformation about us. Through the skillful, sustained use of repetitive media propaganda campaigns, white oppressive forces have created a psychological prison for the minds of millions of black people. Those black people that don't critically think never notices their mental chains. This psychological warfare system provides white oppressive forces with a more proficient method for controlling and subduing black people. For unlike the past blatant racist system that black people were easily able to identify and therefore develop counter strategies against, this system is not easily recognized nor easily comprehended by most of its black victims. This psychological warfare system works so well, in fact, that it not only makes black people more compliant with white dominance over our lives, in many cases, it causes black people to even prefer white dominance over our lives. It is at the root of both the profound division and self-hatred now afflicting so many black people, and it is at the heart of the internalized feelings of superiority that many whites possess. This is our hidden reality. Sadly, the oppressed will always believe the fraudulent words about themselves. And they have our people so demoralized that for some black people, they literally find it easier to go on continually believing the fraudulent words about themselves than to accept that they're being lied to, they're being demoralized because it makes them easier to control. This is our hidden reality. One love and peace.